What's going on, everyone, and welcome into this week's episode of the Mast Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I serve as a territory sales manager for the Mast Sales Group covering Kentucky, the majority of Indiana, and Southern Ohio. Joining me today, owner of Swimworld Pools down in Tennessee, Jay Tucker. Jay, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy. Doing good, man. Just glad to see some sunshine finally and some hot weather. It's pool season full force right now, that's for sure.
Isn't that the truth? The season is getting to be in the full swing of things. Definitely appreciate Jay's time for hopping on here to deliver some knowledge and deliver some perspective as we continually talk with some of the elite across the industry and across the United States. So, Jay, go ahead and get us started with telling the audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit about
Sure.
Swimworld, how that came to be, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty, and it's a cool story is that it's a family business. My grandfather started in 1968. And so if you've been around the pool business long enough, you know, there's a lot of mom and pops and it's family business oriented, mostly. And, you know, that's what's fun about the industry. There's a lot of great relationships that you make over the years. And I have surely done that, had great mentors, with other people in the industry and just, you know, it's a fun business for sure. And, but my grandfather started in 68 and I've been working with him, you know, with my grandfather since I was 11. And so my wife, Amanda, and myself bought it from him back in 2004. And so we've been sort of building that legacy. I've got two boys now, and so they work with me in the summers. They're 16 and 11, and so continue the family industry, and so just sort of doing our thing, you know. And but we've been very blessed. We're in Gallatin, Tennessee, and it's a great community, growing, and in the Nashville area is just on fire. And so we've been very fortunate and blessed to have good business all these years, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of connection there between you and I. My granddad started what the family business that I was in back in 1971, and it's kind of gone down through the generations. And I'm curious because from 1968 to, I mean, now that's a pretty good chunk of time, and I can just imagine of how much things have changed. And from your scope, from when you started when you were 11 to now here in 2025, what would be something or a couple things that you can look at and say, you know what, this has changed perhaps the most over that time?
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I can remember, you know, technology is really the huge thing in our industry, right? From automation to pools, from design, you know, ground penetrating radar and stuff. So I remember when I was a kid, we used to go out, a couple things. We used to go out to jobs, and you know, I don't know if it wasn't invented then or if we didn't know it was available, but marking paint, you know, we would take flour,
Sure.
and mark out where the pool is going to go, and or you know, or things like that. And so the that technology has changed tremendously. And so, and then, you know, the other thing is we used to go out to a backyard, and they used to be just simple pools too, right? Now we're creating backyards is what we do. And so with Pool Studio as an example, I mean, it's huge. It gets everybody on the same page and people can understand what the project is. And that helps us help the customer sort of bring their vision together immensely. And so that's been huge. You know, another thing in technology is that we have a guy that can come out and actually survey the yard if we feel like we have rock or going to have any kind of an issues in the yard. And so he can sort of tell us what's going on before we get into that versus, you know, getting permits and getting everything sort of set up to be able to install this pool. And we get down 6 inches and we got all of this rock and we've got to, you know, terminate or back up and punt. So that's happened, you know, about 4 or 5 times in my lifetime, is that we just couldn't build a pool because the rock was just too much, you know.
I think a lot of people could relate to that for sure.
Yeah. So the technology is huge. I mean, you know, we have, like with our service guys and even construction, you know, we have construction cameras that I could pull up and see if the weather is there in different areas that we're working in, see if materials got delivered, you know, that sort of thing. And then if we have a problem, you know, we can do a FaceTime call or something like that to be able to see what the other person's doing, and it'll figure out a problem instantly. Where used to, I remember when I was a kid, kid, I had a roll of quarters. I would have to go to a payphone and call my grandfather and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. What do we need to do about it?" And so just definitely the technology has changed, and we're huge as far as embracing that and trying to make it work to our benefit for sure.
Well, one way that I saw that off the bat, Jay, and this is something that might be the neatest part about hosting this show, is I like to go and check out each company's website. I think that that gives me a good just glimpse into the business, and it's interesting to see the levels of differentiation. Some companies put a ton of resources into a website and some don't, and that's not to say that it's right nor wrong. It's just based upon preference, based upon,
Sure.
just the scale of the business. But I'll be honest with you all that are listening to this, Jay and Swimworld have perhaps one of the best websites I've seen.
Oh, cool, man. I
And there's
appreciate
a
that.
couple reasons why. Of course, a lot of times companies lay out XYZ, the services they offer, some of the images and portfolios to look at. But I think that Swimworld does a couple things that sort of differentiate. And I kind of want to start in this part, Jay, is this ultimate in-ground pool guide. I'm not sure that you can go to swimworldpool.com for those listening to this. I'm not sure that I've ever seen one as immersive as
Sure.
this one, because I mean, if you look at this, you have a chance to be able to click which pool you want to take a look at, some different features, different tanning ledges and stuff. But I just think that from a prospective homeowner that's looking out, and they don't know what they don't know, right? I
That's
feel
right.
like you lay it out. It was that sort of a point of intention to be able to, hey, look, we're going to give our prospective customers as much knowledge at their disposal as possible.
Yeah, man, it's huge. A swimming pool is an investment, right? Yeah, I mean, it's part of the house, and it's a lot of money, especially these days, that goes into that
Mhm.
backyard. And so, anybody that's making a purchase, you want the greatest amount of information that you can have. I know I do when I make my
Right.
purchases, and I want to research it, and I want to be able to gain the knowledge. And so, we're very fortunate. We've been doing it a long time, and we have that knowledge. And one of the things that we try to teach, and here in our showroom too, what we do is we invite the customer in and we educate them, right? And we give them
Sure.
pros and cons, because everybody says, well, the salt chlorine generator is the best. Well, okay. Well, they have pros and cons. Ozone is the best. They have pros and cons. So it
Sure.
depends on what your situation is. We do three different types of pools. We do fiberglass, we do vinyl liner pools, and we do concrete, which is shotcrete in our area. It's known as gunite in some
Right.
areas, but similar process. And so there's pros and cons to each one of those, right? So it just depends on what it is. So we pride ourselves in educating the customer, giving them the option. We don't sell anybody; we educate them, and we tell them, we'd rather you get good information. And if you decide to not to work with us, then at least you have some good information. We give a sheet when we have a packet out we hand to people. It's called 10 mistakes people make when shopping for swimming pools. And so it's a great resource, because here's what happens is that people don't know, like you said, they don't know what they don't know. And then they go out and they get excited about a swimming pool, and that's awesome. That's what we want. But then they don't know to ask the questions, or permits provided, or, do you haul the dirt off? Do you do the electrical? And then they get into the job, and they've not been told that. And then they have these extra expenses. And sometimes what happens is that by the time that they add that stuff on that we all automatically provide, we're actually maybe a little bit less expensive than what some of the other quotes that they would have gotten, right? And then the other thing is, this is huge as far as the knowledge. I get a lot of people come in and they don't know, and they want this, they want to heat the pool, and they say, I want a gas heater. And so we talk about the pros and the cons, and what the expenses are, and how long it takes to heat that pool up, and what you have to do. And then, but the benefit is you can swim year round. And so we talk about heat pumps and give those options as well. And so when they say, well, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't know about that. So, because what I see a lot happen in our industry is that people, they say, we'll just put a gas heater on it, and everybody's excited the first time they turn that heater on, and then mom and dad gets the gas bill, and they say, hey, if anybody touches that gas heater, I'm gonna get you with a wet noodle, right? Because it was a
Man.
$600 or $1,000 gas bill, and they learned that lesson the hard way. So we try to educate and tell people that, because we have those experiences, we have that knowledge, and we can help them with trying to make the best decision for them, as their family, so.
Quote of the episode, it's already been determined. We don't sell them, we educate them. That is something that, I mean, just resonates with me, because the point of this show, Jay, it's not always about, you know, raising the industry as a whole. A rising tide raises all ships. I mention that every single show. It's
Sure.
not just trying to raise the bar in our industry. I think that the way that you do that fully is you relay this to your homeowners. You educate them, because, I mean, again, don't want to sound like a broken record here, but they don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
We are professionals for a reason. This has been our livelihood. I mean, it's a big investment. Giving them that knowledge, even if they do buy from you, kind of helps you down the road, because it eliminates any problems of, well, you didn't tell me this, or, well, you didn't relate to me that. And
Right.
there's one section on your website, and you touched on it just a tad, the $1 million question when a homeowner is looking for a pool. Well, which one's best?
Right.
Should I get a fiberglass? Should I get a gunite? Should I get a liner?
Right.
And you mentioned it's all based upon preference, but your website lays it out. It's literally, I mean, I'd had to go back and look at the exact verbiage on it, but it basically is talking about it: concrete pool problems, vinyl problems, fiberglass pool problems. I really like that vulnerability that you put out there. So, hey, look, we believe in the product, we believe in the craftsmanship, but understand there are these problems to
That's
focus
right.
on as well.
That's right. Well, I'll give you a good example, and this is one we get a lot too. Fiberglass pools are really a great product, and we've been doing them for 20 plus years. And we've had those different experiences with them where we've learned things as well. And so, but you get a lot of people that don't know about fiberglass pools, and I get this often from customers. They'll meet with somebody that maybe don't do them. They'll do one of the other type of pools, and they say, well, you don't want one of those. Those will float out of the ground. And well, yeah, it absolutely will. It's like a boat turned inside out, right? And so it will. We can take it down to the lake here, put a motor on it, and run it around the lake if we wanted to. And so when you talk to them about that, and it says, hey, think about it this way though: if you've got a concrete pool that's got the complete shell, it will also float out of the ground, right? And if you have a vinyl liner that you got groundwater in, it can also float that liner as well. And so each pool has those kind of issues. And again, we talk about the pros and the cons of each one, but also we understand that can be an issue, and then we handle it that way, so you don't have those problems, and teach people never to drain your pool without some kind of an understanding what it is to relieve that ground pressure. So that's a huge thing that we get into a lot of times, with that misunderstanding of what's out in the industry. And salt systems, as an example, they say, well, I have salt, I don't have chlorine, and we get into that discussion about it, that it is, and how that works, and then the pros and the cons of that as well, and some of the benefits and the detriments that you can have from them as well, depending on the situation. So,
well, a lot of these customers that have pools, Jay, the thing that they get told first is something that they run with until they are corrected. Like you said,
right.
I don't have a chlorine pool. I've got a salt pool. Chances are that wasn't explained to you well in the first place. So
that's right.
You ran with this misinformation, and it's not at the fault of the homeowners. Again, they know what you tell them, and hopefully it's the right information. And I've seen dealers throughout the country really emphasize education, and that's great. That's the way it should be. I think with Swimworld, the thing that impresses me the most, Jay, is how in depth your company goes. Like, I'm looking at this 5 pool mistakes you might be making and how to fix them. And Daniel posts this, and like one of these is just going through and topping off with hose water and then forgetting to balance it. Like that's one example, but you go step by step. You lay it out to where it's easy for someone that doesn't really know about pools to
Right.
grasp, and then you give them the solution. It's like frequently asked questions, but it's ones that are pretty relevant to what people are going through every day.
Sure. Yeah, and we try to learn from our customers too. You know, when we have somebody that's coming in and asking the same questions or maybe having the same problem, one of the things that we have, Dalton, is we have what we call an information station that's in front of our store, and it has all of these answers to the questions that most people have. So it helps us help the customer quicker, and we
Right.
give them the sheet to take with them. So it reminds them of how to, like if they're trying to clear up a green pool or do a sand change or whatever, is that we've got that information for them that we share with them that way. And so again, education I think is huge, and we really learn from our customers and try to get those questions answered. And if we see a common problem, is that we try to maybe see what we can do to help people not have that on a continuous basis, right?
So fill me in on this, kind of turning the page a little bit and switching gears. Um, One of the challenges with the brick and mortar stores, the family businesses, is competing with your big box chains. It's
Sure.
competing with Amazon and Menards, and I mean the list goes on. Walmart. I find it pretty interesting here that you have an online store that you sort of broadcast. Kind of walk me through a little bit of that. How does that process work for a customer? If I was to go on and get a 10-pound thing of chlorine tablets now, how does it ship? How does the logistical stuff work there?
Yeah, so probably about 7 years ago, we made a decision, and we got a lot of flack about it as well. We had a traditional retail store, is what we had, where we had all of the the products and stuff in, and so we made a decision. A couple of reasons actually. We made the decision to be able to close that down, and it was it was right. We were sort of doing that, and then COVID came, some of that kind of stuff, but what happened is just with the Amazons and all of that kind of stuff is that, margins aren't as good as they can be, as they used to be, because there is, a lot of online business, but we have a lot of customers that walk in and take care of it. But anyway, what we decided to do is to shut down our retail store. And then what we did is we converted our area inside where we had the retail to make our showroom for pool construction more, so we could educate, teach, and show and all of that kind of stuff. And then we still wanted to be able to give people the ability to come and do water tests, what we do. And we have the chemicals, and we have the accessories for cleaning and that sort of thing, automatic cleaners, that sort of thing. So what we decided to do to be able to still service the customer is sort of think outside the box and how we could help them. So what we did is we converted the front of our store to have a room with the locker systems. And then we have a code to the front door that anybody that has the code could come in and out. So let's say, for instance, Dalton, you said you wanted that 10-pound of tablets or whatever, and it was a Friday afternoon. You can't get to our store, so you can either order it online or you can call and give us a credit card. And what we would do is take those 10 pounds of tablets, take it up to the front in our locker system. We'd send you the information, give you the code to the front door, locker number 2. Here's the code to that. You get your product at midnight. You could get it at Sunday. You could get
That's
it
awesome.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just sort of the delivery thing that's evolved with COVID and Amazon and all of that kind of stuff, is that to make it convenient where they could access whatever they needed after hours. And then also we said, here's what we're going to do. We got trucks all over the place anyway. And so you give us 2 days and we'll deliver it to you with a minimum of $50 purchase. So we're going to have trucks that way. It's not a big deal to drop off 6 bags of salt. And then that saves that customer from having to come in and lug it and put it in. We'll take it to
Right.
them. And so it's been helpful that way. And then we still have foot traffic that comes in, that people buy their chemicals from us, and we help them with water
Hmm.
testing, figure out problems and all of that. So that's been huge. But one of the main reasons we have is that I've been doing this a long time. I'm getting older. I've got kids that, that are in sports, or we have activities with our family. And we made us this decision with our company is to, and I'm the guy that would work, 6, 7 days a week, 14-hour days, and just got to a point. I had tonsil cancer about 3.5 years ago, and so just to that point of of having time with family and being able to try to balance life and work. And so again, by closing the retail store down, we're not actually open on Saturdays anymore, which was what we used to be. And so, and
Hmm.
all of our people are able to have time off with their families and be able to do it. So I know swimming pool industry, we've got a season that we try to get taken care of, and we try to
Right.
make hay as while the sun shines, right? And so, as the old saying goes, but what we found is that my folks are more happy. They're able to do things with their families and be able to have that time just to regenerate and not get burnt out, because it's easy to do in
Sure.
this industry,
Yeah.
because you get weather constraints, you get trying to get stuff done, and it's just tough. So that's been huge for us, and that was one of the reasons why we made that change from retail to be able to just to focus on the things that we do best, which is construction and our service stuff.
I'm intrigued. Has that, the delivery options, has that kind of almost added to some of the service business that you're getting? Because I mean, if you're delivering the product, I mean, have you seen in your experience customers sort of take it a step further and say, well, if I'm going to go ahead and get them to deliver this, maybe I have them install it as well. Maybe I have this put it in the water. Maybe I'm wrong, but is that something that's added to that business?
Yeah, sometimes, but the majority of the time, the
Yeah,
people that are doing that are our regular customers anyway, and they may be taking care
sure.
of their pool, or let's say we do like a monthly cleaning or something, and they need more tablets, right? And they
Yeah.
say, hey, and they just go on and order, and then we bring it out to them, and then that way they can supplement in between the trips. But you know, I think that is important to be able to have that access to see. Like I said, we got beat up pretty good when we shut the store down. I had a guy that come into the store. He's been a long time customer. He said, "Man, what are you doing? Well, what are you doing? I can't come in and get my stuff anymore." I said, "Sure you can." I said, "I'll make it even easier for you." He said, "How long have you had your pool? 20 years?" "Yeah, I have." I said, "Well, you know what you want when you walk in the door, what you need, right?" So what I'm telling you is just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I need 2 quarts of algicide, and here's my credit card. You got one of those, don't you, Bill?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." "Okay, well, pick it up, and then instead of you can come and get it whenever you want to, or come in and see you. We always love to see you. Come in and get it. You already know what you want, and we've got it ready for you." So
Right.
anyway, he got mad at me for a little while, and then about 3 weeks later, I saw him back in the store, and so he's still doing business with us. So.
Hey, good love to hear that. I'll kind of end things with this, Jay. One thing I like to do with the show is I like to incorporate a mailbag question. And this has been one I've kind of sat on waiting for the right opportunity, but I think it kind of pertains a lot to what we talk about. You have a blog on your website. Now, this is from about a decade ago in 2016, but the vulnerability to list some of the other best rated dealers in your area. I find that, first of all, it's awesome to see that synergy. But the mailbag question I want to ask you, Jay, is while keeping competition in mind, how can we as an industry support each other and raise the bar for the rest of the dealers in the area while also being competitive?
Yeah, and that's a great question, man. Is that one of the things that I know is that there are a lot of good pool people in our area and in the industry for
Mhm.
that matter.
Right.
But on the other end of it, there are some that are not so good, right?
Hmm.
And so again, like I said earlier, if people decide that they don't want to do business with us for whatever reason, we want to give them information and also maybe other opportunities to be able to go, because here's the thing is if somebody has a bad experience in the pool industry, they get a pool that's built and it didn't go right, and by good gracious, I mean, we all make mistakes when it's construction, and we try to take care of those, but there's some that just go sideways and it's bad, and then and we got people that says, "I wish I'd never had a swimming pool," and so what I would rather
Right.
do is somebody go and purchase a pool from a competitor that does a great job, versus say, "Okay, I'm going to go get it from here and have a bad one," and then sort of gives a black eye on our industry, right? So
Right.
I think if we support each other, as far as the people that are doing good things, I think and there's enough work to go out for everybody, and I think it's important for us to work together and sort of against each other. There's been times where we've shared orders with other dealers, that we may not meet a minimum or something, and
Right.
that helps each other out. So, and used to in our area, I don't know if it is in any of the other ones. We used to have the old NSPI, APSP. We had a local chapter, and those have all sort of dissolved. And so some of my fondest memories and actually some mentors and some of the stuff that I learned is sort of like what this podcast is doing, is sharing the information. We would get together quarterly as different dealers in this area, and we would
Right.
just talk about what the industry's doing and what this company's doing. And then, we had local awards that were given out to different dealers for their projects and stuff.
Well, Jay, definitely appreciate you for hopping on, man, and taking this time. That is going to wrap up this episode of the show. Be sure to tune in next week. Until then.
Appreciate the opportunity.